Hi friends, it's Becky and I have a design to share with you today. We'll do a little tutorial where we make a little snowflake pendant using some Gemduos, some 2-hole chevron beads. I have that Baroque cabochon bead, 2-hole right here in the center, and then I've got some delicas for around the sides. For my example here, I used this color of delica. These came in my Beads of the Month subscription. So did the 2-hole beads that I'm using. This was in my Delicas of the Month subscription, and the 2-hole beads were in my 2-hole bead subscription. So I'm going to be using those. They're from Adornable Elements for January. And if you'd like to see the other beads that came in that subscription, I will link in the description below the unboxing so you can check those out. But I knew as soon as I saw these beads that I was going to be putting them together and turning them into a snowflake. One of my favorite things about 2-hole beads is figuring out how to piece them together and how to make them into like the little puzzle piece, just to make something out of them. And so I've made this little pendant. You could, instead of this ladder stitch bail that I'm going to be showing you, you could put a wire guardian on there and make them into earrings or something like that. If you'd like them to be a little stiffer, you can always stiffen up your beadwork with like some diamond glaze or something like that. But I think mine is just fine like this. So in addition to the beads, you're going to want some beading thread and a beading needle. I've got a size 10 beading needle and a wingspan's worth of 6-pound Fairline in crystal. And because I'm using light colored beads and light colored thread, I'm going to be beading against this dark background so that y'all can see it a little bit better. Also, for my example here, I used these blue delica beads, but for the one that I make with you today, I'm going to be using these like silvery gray ones. They're kind of more towards the gunmetal color. So I thought that it would be fun to do a different color for the video to show you different options and how just changing one of the bead colors would change the look of it in case you wanted to use different colors with it. Now you will need 6 total of the 2-hole chevron beads. You'll need 12 total Gemduo beads, and you'll need 1 of the, I think these are 6mm cabochon beads, and they have 2 holes in them there. All right, I'm also going to be making a little change for my example here between the different holes on my chevron beads. I just used some delicas to bridge that there, and it looks great. I have no problem with this, but for the example that I'm going to make with you today, I'm going to be putting some 4mm fire polish beads there in that place, and I'm just using 5 of them because one of my chevrons will have a little bail that I make, so it won't need that. All right, so let's pick up a single delica. These are 11/0 delicas, and I'm going to move it down to almost the end of my thread. Well, I just went through all the way to the end of my thread. Let's just put that back on there, shall we? There we go. Almost to the end of my thread. And then I'm going to want to go through that twice so that the thread wraps around this side. It's going to be a stop bead, but we're not going to be removing it later. It's going to be part of the design. So that's just what we're going to start with. That's going to keep our thread from going anywhere as we make this design. So I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to go through one of the holes in the cabochon bead, and it doesn't matter which hole you go through. Something I like to do with my 2-hole beads is make sure that both holes are clear before I go in with one of them. It helps to not drop your needle as you're going along. Just pro tip. All right, so I've got my delica over there, and then I'm coming out of one of the holes here on my cabochon bead. I'm going to want to pick up another delica, a Gemduo, and a delica. Now, when I have 2-hole beads that have a right side and a wrong side. I like to line them all up so that I make sure that I go through them all in the same direction, or in the correct hole in the right direction. And since I'm going from this hole over here to this hole, I would like this Gemduo to be facing this way. And so I'm going to go through the hole in that direction. So I've got my delica, my Gemduo, and my delica on my needle. I'm going to go into the second hole on this cabochon, right there. Just like that. That Gemduo will pop right there between those two delicas. And then for this one, I'm going to pick up another delica, a Gemduo, and I don't need to pick up a second delica because I have that second delica right here. So I'm going to go through that and then into that hole again. So that I've got a delica, Gemduo delica over there. I'm going to scooch through this delica and the Gemduo and that delica. So I'm coming out of that delica on the left. Now I want two delicas in between each of the Gemduos that I'm going to be adding around here. And so I'm going to be adding two Gemduos on this side and two Gemduos on the next side. Since I already have a delica here, I'm going to pick up one delica, so that makes my two, and then a Gemduo. Again, going through the same way that I did on the other one. Two delicas, because that's going to be two between each Gemduo. Another Gemduo. Make sure I go through the same hole. And then because I've got a delica over here, I'm just going to pick up one delica so that I have two delicas between my Gemduos. I'm going to go through that delica and that Gemduo right next to it. If you need to set it on the ground to help it get set in the right place, you can do that and hold on to the bead to give the thread a little bit of a tug. Right, and then I'm going to go through this delica over here. So I want to be coming out of this one. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pick up one delica, one Gemduo. Come on, buddy. Just double check that this has both of the holes clear. And it does not. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. Whoop. And then, okay, so I've got one delica, one Gemduo, two delicas, and then one Gemduo. Let's make sure we've got both holes clear on this one. Okay, and then one delica. Right. I'm going to go through these three beads again. That delica, Gemduo delica. And I'm going to sew all the way around 2 times. I'm going to go around one more time and then one more time after that, because I want this to be nice and reinforced all the way around here. A nice circle around my guy with these Gemduos not going anywhere. And everybody nice and happy and friendly right next to each other, because we're not going to come back down to the middle of this pendant when we're done. So I just want it to be nice and reinforced before we move on to the next level. So this is the inner level of beading that we're doing. I can also take a minute to take care of my tail thread, because we're not going to need that either. So we've got all of these going. Actually not sure how far along I am. I'm just going to do 2 more. All right, now to step up to the next level, I'm going to be wanting to come out of one of my Gemduos. And then I'll just move to the second hole on my Gemduo, like that. Scooch that along. I like it already. Look how pretty that is. All right, now the next part is that we are going to be adding another Gemduo the long way around and some more delicas in between each of these Gemduos. So I'm going to pick up one delica. You can see it right there. And I'm going to go into one of these Gemduos on the left side, if it's facing up like football wise, like that. I'm going to pick up 4 delicas, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, and then go down the other hole of this Gemduo, pick up another delica, and go through this second hole on the next Gemduo. So let's tighten that up, and you can see how that pops into place right there. I'm going to just repeat that all the way around. Pick up a delica, go through the first hole of a Gemduo, pick up 4, 2, 3, 4 delicas, scooch it down into place, go through this second hole right here, pick up another delica and go through this next Gemduo on the piece. We're going to keep repeating that all the way around until we get that remaining 6 Gemduos installed in between these first 6 Gemduos. All right, friends, so after you have added all of those 6 different ones all together, you're going to end up and want to be coming out of one of the Gemduos that you just added, just coming out of the first hole on one of the ones that we added. I went around a second time, just followed my thread path all the way around just to reinforce it, just, adding the beads and then one pass. I didn't do 2 passes like I did around the center because we are going to be reinforcing this as we go and add our chevrons because they're going to fit in right there. We're also going to be adding these bicones right there in the middle as we do this. So we're coming out of this Gemduo right here. I'm going to pick up another delica. I'm going to have that delica just right there to be a little buffer between me and the chevron. Again, make sure both holes are clear before you go through the first one. And chevrons, it does not matter which hole you go through. We're going to want to be going into one of the holes on the outer curve side, not the inner curve side. So I've got this guy here. Where you going, buddy? And now I'm going to want to bridge over here to this one. So I'm going to pick up one delica, one of my 4mm bicones, and a delica, and go into the second hole of my chevron, like that. Boom. And I'm going to pick up another delica and go into this. There's 3 of these, just a little cluster of Gemduos with their points towards you. So we're going to go through this one over here. This one on the left is the one we're coming out of for the chevron. I'm going to go into this one here on the right. Like this. And I'm going to go through this Gemduo in the middle and the delicas on either side. I'm going to go through both the delicas and the Gemduo. I'm going to go back through this Gemduo and that delica. And I'm just going to reinforce this guy right here. By going up. Go through here. Through here. Nice. And then I'm going to go through this delica that I just added. Right there. I'm going to move my thread over to the other side of this Gemduo. So that I'm coming out of these delicas along the top of this next Gemduo. So we just added this guy, and I am going to add another chevron. So I'm going to pick up a delica, go through one of the holes on this chevron, again on the outer curve side, not the inner curve side. Then I'm going to pick up a delica, a bicone, and a delica. Go back through here. Pick up one more delica. I'm going to sew through this little cluster of 3 Gemduos right here, their ends together. If I can find that hole. Sometimes it helps to pick it up to find the hole a little bit better. Sometimes I need better lighting to find the hole. Sometimes I need to go get my little magnifying light in order to find the hole. It happens. These are tiny beads. Once again, I am just doing this little circle here to help reinforce this over here on the edge. We're going to go back here through this delica, the Gemduo, and I'm going to go through all 5 of these delicas, the one that we added recently, and those other 4 that were along the top of those Gemduos. All right, and I'm going to repeat this specific one, add that 1, 2, 3 more times. And when I get to my last one, we're going to do something a little bit different, because instead of the bicone, we're going to be doing our ladder stitch bail. So I'm going to add those other 3, and then we'll do this last one together. All right. All right, so I've added all 5 of these points, and I have just one more point left to make. That is my very last chevron here. I'm going to pick up a delica, go through my chevron exactly like I did these other ones. This part isn't any different, but instead of picking up a delica, a bicone, and a delica, I'm just going to pick up 3 delicas. And this is what you do if you were going to do it without the bicones, and do this sort of a version with that. And then go through the other side. And then I'm going to go around, just like I did on all of the other ones, through those 3 Gemduos after I pick up a bicone, or sorry, a delica. I'm going to sew all the way around through these 3 delicas. Not delicas, Gemduos and delicas. Because they've got those delicas in between. And this just also helps reinforce the delicas as well as the connections to the chevrons, like this. Now, before I go through and reinforce the outside edge of this, I'm going to come back up here and do my my ladder stitch bail that I was using. I want it to be wide enough to fit around my silver silk capture chain. So 9 rows, including these 3 right here, will be just enough for that. So I'm going to go through my 3 delicas, and I'm going to add them in groups of 3. Pick up 3 more delicas, 1, 2, 3. And then I'm coming out of this side of my group of 3 here. So I'm going to go into the opposite side. It's just making a loop. And you can pinch your delicas to help them sit on top of the others. And then I'm going to jump up, coming out of this row of delicas, to that row that I just added. So I'm coming out of it there. I'm going to add another row. So 3 more delicas, and I'm going to keep going just like this, going through my previous row and then jumping up to the row I just added and tightening it up a little bit between each one. Make sure when you are tightening it up that you're pulling on your thread, not on your needle. 1, 2, 3. And again, I want 9 rows, including my beginning row, or 8 additional rows. I suppose there are other ways that you could do a bail. You could do a herringbone bail if you wanted. You could just attach a wire guardian and then a jump ring. But I like these bead woven bails. I like how they look and how you can carry up the color and the bead weaving all the way through the rest of your necklace. Now I'm going to be putting this on silver silk, but you could also do like a beaded rope sort of situation. I had a spiral stitch bracelet that I made the other day that would probably look really nice as a beaded rope necklace if you were to do it longer. I'll link to my spiral stitch bracelet in the description as well. It's a fun project. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so one more after this. One, two, three. Go. Now I'm just going to bend it back around. I'm coming out of, if I'm holding, this is the right and this is the left, I'm coming out of the right side of my ladder. So I'm going to go into the right side of my base row. Bend that back. There we go. Now I'm coming out of that left side. I'm going to go into the left side of that last row. Actually, let's turn it over so that I can, the opposite side of what I was coming out of earlier. And I'm going to go through both of these rows another time, maybe even another time after that. I just want to make sure that we are good and secure. Okay. And I've got to figure out a way of turning this around so that we're coming out of this end on that lower row. Maybe, or maybe, you know what? I can just keep going this way. All right, now I'm going to reinforce the outer edge of this by going through all of these delicas, the chevrons, the delica bicone delica, Just going to follow this outer edge of beads all the way around. Sorry about that. Until I get back to where I started. I just want to make sure that we are not going to have these bicones falling off. Randomly because a single thread broke. Two threads, that's where it's at. And I do find that Fireline is very durable when it comes to these types of beads that have angular edges like delicas and bicones. It's that thermally fused or thermally bonded beading thread. It just stands up a lot better to the edges. Sometimes softer threads that aren't thermally bonded can wear or break a little more easily, in my experience. In fact, there are times when I will substitute like a fire polish bead instead of a bicone, you know, where I can get away with it in a pattern just because I don't want to deal with bicones and potentially cut threads. I'm sure if you have done any of this sort of thing before, you've got your stories of things you worked for hours on, and then your thread broke, and you're like, oh no. Alright, I'm almost to the end here. My thread is bent over there. Let's scooch my needle along so that it's not getting in there anymore. There we go. We're almost back where we started. Isn't that pretty? I'm just gonna stop and look at that for just a minute. Ah, I love it. Ah, so pretty. I know probably a lot of my friends are tired of snow, especially with all of the snow that we're getting this weekend. But I will never be tired of snowflakes, especially snowflakes like this that are just pretty to look at and don't ruin your day or increase the cost of your heating bill or anything like that. All right, I'm gonna go down through my work a little bit, a ways away from this, to tie off my thread. I just flip this over because sometimes it's easier to go back down through from the back side than from the front side. I think this would be a good place for me to do a little half hitch knot. I'm going to go underneath that bar of thread between that delica and there, and then go through the loop that my thread made. That just ties a little bit of a half hitch knot. And we'll go through there just to move a little ways away from where I knotted it. And now I can thread burn that. I could do another knot, but I'm not really feeling like doing it. This is only going to be holding the weight of itself on the necklace. Let me scooch you over here. We might pull out in a minute to demonstrate the silver silk capture chain. Now, if you haven't seen silver silk capture chain before, it's basically fancy ball chain. You have this silver ball chain in here that is surrounded by a knitted coat or jacket or sweater, if you will, of this silver, fine silver wire. And it's so sparkly and pretty, and it is just an excellent accompaniment to my snowflake pendant, and that's what I want to string it on. I usually like to use the silver silk findings that are sold. I will put a link to Silver Silk and More. That's where you can find these things. It's a boutique item. It's not going to be at Hobby Lobby. It is on Silver Silk and More. That's where you can buy them. But they have these little teeth on the inside that will grab onto the little balls, and I won't have to glue it. It's a nice little finding, and then I can attach my jump rings and lobster clasps to make this into a necklace. So let's scooch out a little bit so that you can watch me do that. Let me get this to the right length that I want it to be, though, because I think I have a little bit more on here than I want. And you can just use your wire cutters to cut your silver silk. Like, this is a length that could be used for a couple of earrings or maybe a bracelet or something like that. So it's nice to keep your little bits and use them for other things. Sometimes there's these little bits of wire that come off with it. I'm just cleaning off my edges, getting the extra danglies out of the way. All right. Now I'm going to clamp one end of my silver silk, and I like to use a wide nose pliers to close it. You could use a silicone, like the silicone jaw pliers, but the ones that I have, they or the nylon jaw pliers, these will slip out of there, and so it's really hard to do that. So I like to use these ones. I will put this as far in there as I can get it. Usually when you've got about the second ball in there, that's about the right place to close this down. All right. And I'll usually do a little tug test to make sure that it's good and in there. So now that I've got that end closed, I can string on my pendant. Let's close this up. Make that a little more round. There we go. Slide my pendant on there. Love that. Absolutely love that. You know, I think I might actually on this one do a second bail on this opposite edge and then put some silver silk through and double it up for a bracelet. Because if this has it on both sides, we've got this doubled up like that for half of a bracelet. What do you guys think? Should I go ahead and make a bracelet like that? All I have to do is add some thread and do the same ladder stitch on this side, and then I can use some doubled up silver silk and a double clasp like that. Let's see, it's got 2 holes there. We could put that in there. All right, yeah, that sounds like a plan actually. I might do that. I might actually do that, but not tonight. I can do that on another day. For right now, I just wanted to share this design with you, and I can always play around with variations later. So now that I've got my bead strung on, I can attach my clasp, or sorry, my finding on the other side. All right. Okay. Now let's get a clasp. I could do all sorts of different types of clasps, but I think I just want to get a couple of jump rings out here. And a lobster clasp. That's 2 5mm jump rings and 1 6mm. And here's a lobster clasp. Make sure that this jump ring is nice and closed, because I'm not going to be opening it. I just want to make sure that it's very good and closed. These smaller ones I am going to be opening. Swing it open. Attach it to the necklace and the clasp, and then we'll swing it closed. And just twist it. You don't pull the ends apart. And you do jump rings. All right. This one's going to be fun. Ring on there. Put it on there. I could have just attached the 6mm jump ring to this directly, but I wanted to have these two. I'm just making sure this is good and closed. All right. Here we go. All right, friends, let's take one last look. I'm just keeping it on my darker work surface so that you can see it better because it is so light colored. I love it. It is very, very wintry, and I'm absolutely loving it. Again, this is the one with the dark gray luster delicas, and this is the design with the blue delicas. So you can see how just changing the delica color just gives you a completely different look on that. Anyway, I hope y'all are keeping warm, staying bundled this weekend and into the week as we experience in the North American sector some cold weather. Anyway, if you have time, if you get snowed in, maybe you'll have an opportunity to make some designs with me. As always, happy beading.